Elliot, you play Brady.
Yes.
He's just become a detective. Tell me about your character.
Well, he is newly married to Tess, who's the youngest daughter of the Hawthorne family. And he's been a cop for a few years now, and yeah, he's just been given this big opportunity where he's promoted finally to detective. And little does he know, he's about to have a huge chance to prove himself when the Silver Bells killer investigation is reopened.
A little bit of the background of the character, whether it's in the show or not, I don't know, but he's kind of a blue-collar guy, I assume.
Yeah, he
works
is.
for the police department, and he's marrying into a family with immense prominence and wealth. How does he feel about that as a character?
I mean, it is something that I ask questions about because he comes from a working class background. He very much appreciates the value of hard work and not always seeing a great reward for that. Not great external reward anyway. So it's definitely a different world for him to be a part of, but I don't think it's something he focuses on in terms of judging the family members. He's not a judgmental kind of guy, you know, he has his duties as an officer and that's what he focuses on, and he's in love with this beautiful, wonderful woman who he's very happy to be with. And I think, at least for the time being, that's as far as his focus extends until certain events may occur that then forces him to maybe look at people and situations in a slightly different light.
We were just out back and we saw a big concrete panel over a car. That accident touches off the investigation for you as the detective.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what happens there, to the extent that you can.
Well, there is an accident in the city, there's a collapse, and suddenly from that collapse, some new evidence comes to light from a string of murders, some serial murders from 20 years ago that have haunted the city ever since. The cases remained unsolved. The killer is still out there, and no one knows who it is. And this new evidence suddenly seems to point towards someone perhaps in the family or someone related to the Hawthorns, which is obviously very close to home for Brady, being married to Tess. So tensions are very high, and it's a case that he then eventually gets put onto to lead the investigation and figure out who the Silver Bells killer actually is after all this time.
He must feel conflicted about the fact that he's got to investigate his own family, his own
definitely.
relatives-in-law.
Yeah, you know, there's a large part, I've done a lot of research on how detectives often approach these kinds of cases, especially when you're talking about serial killers and things that are quite brutal and they don't show patterns of, not patterns of MO or any kind of thing that makes it detectable and easy to predict. And there's a large part of it where you have to be able to separate your emotions from your duty to carry it out efficiently. But it will be interesting to see if he has to do that within the context of his own family. How easy that will be for him, and whether or not that divides his duty to law and or his family.
You said you did some background work on the character and police work. How did you go about doing that?
It was mainly a lot of research and looking into things. Obviously, there's only so much that you can do physically yourself. But I looked a lot into past cases of serial killings and victims, and just to, I suppose, acclimatize myself to the sort of world that he would be in, being a Boston police officer and now detective. And you know, it's terrifying and it's gruesome and it's a horrible thing, but it's also something that is so interesting to people because serial killers especially are terrifying. They could be anyone, they could be anywhere, and victims could be anyone. There's often not a great pattern to how they carry out their murders, and so you really never know where to look or where to hide. Which then again makes it a very important investigation for any police department to try and solve, because not only does it cause there to be victims, but it also causes widespread panic and terror, which is something that they would want to avoid.
And this actually is where your character works, right here.
This is my desk, right
This is
here.
where he's going to be trying to figure out the Silver Bells killer.
Yes, it's where the magic will happen.
We have to ask you about the accent.
Yes.
You're British, obviously.
Yes, I am.
What kind of research did you have to do or work did you have to do to take on the new accent?
We looked at Brady being, having a Boston accent. You know, he's grown up in the city and that's where he comes from. It's where he loves and where he knows. It's obviously a very specific accent and it has a lot of heart in it. I love Boston. I've been a couple of times and it's great. We tried it out with Brady in the beginning of this, and I think we found that it didn't quite match up with the sort of character that we wanted him to be and have. Although he does have that edge to him, it's more of an internal edge than an obvious fire that is beating for everybody to see. he's more a thinker and slowly ticking in the background and analyzing things over. So he won't be English. He'll be American. He's not Sherlock, but
he's not going to have a super strong Boston
no.
accent.
I mean, he did for about a week, and then we were like, you know what? That might be better placed with other people rather than with him.
Did you like doing that accent? How did you go?
I
about
did.
learning?
I never had to do one before. Not a Boston accent. So that was very fun.
Did you just watch like a lot of Good Will Hunting, or how did you?
I did watch Good Will Hunting, and I watched
Town.
The Departed, and a bunch of things, which was very interesting, you know. But it is fascinating to me how much something as simple as an accent can really feed into your character and how they carry themselves and hold themselves.
Oh, totally.
And all of those things. So ultimately, I think we just tried to make the decision that was best for the character and for the story. But there will be obviously some Boston accents in there.
Do you know at this point through the scripts who the killer is?
No.
You don't know who the killer is. So you're going to be learning it as you're reading the scripts.
Yeah.
You'll be learning it sort of as the audience.
I mean,
does.
none of us know anything. I don't know what other people know for definite, but no one knows who the killer is. None of us do. So we are just as invested in finding out who it is as everyone else watching.
Brady and Elliot both interested. Well, thank
Yeah,
you so much for
exactly.
chatting with us. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.